Hello lovers of Westeros, I'm Ashley of Noth. Welcome to my channel. In this video we are going to discuss the oldie but goodie R plus C equals G theory, which posits that Gendry is the trueborn son of Robert Baratheon and Cersei Lannister. I know this theory has been covered ad nauseum on other channels, so I wasn't going to do a video on this topic, but it came up in the comments section of the Gendry Valonqar video I did. If you haven't seen it, check it out. So it felt like a natural progression to discuss it now. Voila, here we are. If you're interested in my take on the R plus C equals G situation, you're in the right place, just keep watching. To start, let's examine where R plus C equals G comes from. In the show, before we even meet Gendry, Cersei has the following exchange with Lady Catelyn when she goes to Bran's room to express condolences for his fall. I lost my first boy, little black-haired beauty. He was a fighter too. Tried to beat the fever that took him. Forgive me, that's the last thing you need to hear right now. Catelyn says she never knew, and Cersei goes on to say, Robert was crazed, beat his hands bloody on the wall. The boy looked just like him. Such a little thing, a bird without feathers. Fast forward a bit and we meet Gendry for the first time when Ned goes to Tobhomat's shop. Ned asks Gendry what he and Lord Arryn talked about when Lord Arryn visited the shop, and Gendry said Lord Arryn asked him questions. Ned asked what Lord Arryn asked, and Gendry mentions some of the questions were about his mother. Ned asks what Gendry told him, and Gendry said, "She died when I was little. She had yellow hair. She would sing to me sometimes." Gendry discusses his mother on one other occasion in Season 2, Episode 2. He tells Arya that she worked in a tavern and died when he was little. So here we have blonde Cersei claiming to have had a son that died in infancy who looked just like Robert. Here we have Gendry, whom we know looks exactly like Robert, claiming to have a mother who was blonde and died when he was young. Let's not forget this little gem either. Cersei told Lady Catelyn that her first boy was a fighter. In Season 7, when Gendry introduces himself to Jon and says he wants to go beyond the wall with the Fellowship, Davos tells Gendry not to be a fool, that he wasn't a soldier. Gendry says, and I quote, "No, but I'm a fighter." None of this is a smoking gun, but this is what R plus C equals G rests on more or less. People put certain clues together and it's enough to give them pause. Maybe Gendry is the mystery baby. In order for that to be possible, some sort of baby swapation had to have occurred, and an innocent child was either allowed to die or was murdered. Given the extent of what Grand Maester Pycelle has done for House Lannister, assisting Cersei in this scheme would be nothing to him. And in case you doubt if Cersei is that cutthroat enough to murder a baby, I'll take this opportunity to remind you of her history. In the books, not only did Cersei give the order for the execution of Robert's bastards in King's Landing, but approximately 4 years prior, Cersei is rumored to have ordered the murders of 2 of Robert's other bastard children. Also, in one of her point of views, Cersei joyfully imagines herself eating Robert's children while licking his semen off her hands. That's the kind of woman she is. Now, Cersei also acknowledged that whenever she gives birth, Robert goes hunting. So a baby swap taking place prior to Robert returning and having a chance to see his baby is certainly possible. What's more, Gendry is 2 years older than Joffrey. I wasn't sure Gendry could be Cersei's as he and Joff appear to be so close in age, but 2 years is more than enough time between the pregnancies, so Cersei could be Gendry's mother in that regard. R plus C equals G being true could have several interesting implications on the story. For one thing, it would make the matter of secession very enthralling. Dany's claim is already in question due to the impending R plus L equals J reveal, though that crisis could be averted if they kept the family tradition alive and married each other. However, Gendry being Robert and Cersei's means he too has a claim to the throne, as he'd be the last king's trueborn son. In fact, that probably gives him a stronger claim than anyone. So what would happen with him? Dany could marry Gendry, but then Jon would be the odd man out. You can see R plus C equals G creates quite a pickle. The second interesting implication is one I raised in a previous video. In Season 6, Tommen has this moment with Cersei where he struggles to tell his mom a secret the High Sparrow told him. Tommen says that the High Sparrow made him promise not to tell anyone this information, and Cersei tells Tommen that she is his mother and that Tommen can always trust her. He opens his mouth to reveal this secret, but before we hear what he says, the camera immediately cuts to another scene. To date, we've never heard what this secret was. I said it in the last video and I'll say it again here. Whatever the secret was, it had to be major, otherwise Tommen wouldn't have grappled with the decision to share the information with his mother, and the show wouldn't have hid it from viewers. Through process of elimination, in-depth coverage of which can be viewed in my Cersei's Dirty Little Secret video, I arrive at the conclusion that the secret most likely is that Cersei had another child whom she's kept hidden and denied existed. A child born of her union with Robert Baratheon, who would prove her other children are incestuous bastards and thus render House Lannister's legacy false and an abomination. If the High Sparrow knew about this and planned to expose it, and now thanks to Tommen Cersei knew of his plan, it makes her decision to blow up the Sept way more cool and ruthless. It means she killed to keep Gendry a secret. He was the entree while the Faith Militant and House Tyrell were merely sides. If true, this would be one kick-ass hoodwink by David and Dan, and I'd love it. The third and final plot implication I'd like to cover is how Cersei being Gendry's mother would jive with Gendry being the Voluncar. I feel that Cersei being Gendry's mother and revealing that truth to him as some sort of deathbed confession would make one hell of a compelling scene. In fact, I'd venture to say the realization that his mother tried to kill him might be the thing that pushes Gendry over the edge. Not unlike another Lannister child who murdered a parent that had tried to kill them. I'd like to account for one more thing before switching gears to talk about this theory's criticisms. I'd like to answer why Cersei would give Gendry, that is to say her own child, away. In a word, jealousy. Contrary to what has been portrayed on the show, Cersei did love other men apart from Jaime. Robert Baratheon was one such. Cersei actually admits this to Ned, telling him she embraced her marriage to Robert until their wedding night when Robert called her Lyanna during sex. Cersei never forgave Robert for this, and from then on became obsessed with spiting him however she could. It's my belief that Cersei never got over being called Lyanna on what she described as the happiest day of her life. Someone as narcissistic as Cersei couldn't move on from being called another woman's name on her wedding night, especially if that other woman was dead. What was it Tyrion said about her? Oh yeah. Cersei is as gentle as King Maegor, as selfless as Aegon the Unworthy, as wise as Mad Eris. She never forgets a slight, real or imagined. Yeah, Cersei's never getting over that shit. The biggest way for her to spite Robert would be to give their son away, were one conceived on their wedding night, and place children fathered by another man on the Iron Throne, totally falsifying Robert's legacy. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Okay, time to switch gears. Let's examine what doesn't work for R plus C equals G. For one thing, the scene between Cersei and Lady Catelyn never happened in the books. In fact, at no point in the books does Cersei ever reference having a son who died of a fever in infancy. Nor does Robert, for that matter. Sidebar, I know that losing a child isn't something that a parent would openly discuss, but you would think that if that had happened, the one person in the world that Robert would have talked to about it was Ned. But it never comes up between them. Never. Anyways, there was a discussion between Cersei and Ned in which Cersei admits to aborting one of her pregnancies by Robert. But a fetus that never drew breath outside the womb is a far cry from a baby who could be described as a fighter. The other thing that doesn't add up about this mystery child is that when Kat heard about it, she said she didn't know. Royal births are a big deal. There's no way it would have been kept secret. Also, dying early wouldn't strike the child from public record. Proof of this can be seen by taking a look on King Aerys or Queen Rayella's A Wiki of Ice and Fire.com profiles. If you click on the family tab, their family tree pops up, and you can see they had 5 children between Rhaegar and Viserys, 4 of whom died in infancy and 1 who was stillborn. The 4 who died young, as Cersei told Kat her and Robert's first boy had, were not only included, they were named. So, very much on the record. Now, if you look at Cersei's family tree, you can see that the only children she's had are Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen. Why would all of Rayella's children who died young be included, but not Cersei's? Because the child Cersei told Kat about doesn't exist. A second flaw to R plus C equals G, and the one that prevents me from getting behind this theory, is Maggie the Frog. Maggie told Cersei that Robert would have 16 children and Cersei would have 3. The distinction confuses Cersei, but it meant they'd both have children, just not with each other. So this means Gendry can't be their son. He is Robert's, but Cersei is not the mother. I have no reason to doubt Maggie because she's been right about everything else. Cersei didn't marry Prince Rhaegar, she married King Robert. Robert fathered all his bastards, and Cersei had her 3 children by her brother. In the show, all 3 of her children died. In the books, 1 has so far, but the pattern should continue. Melara Heatherspoon died the night she visited Maggie, just as Maggie told her she would. Sidebar, Melara is Cersei's friend who accompanied her to visit Maggie. She died that night by drowning in a well, and it's implied that Cersei was the one who pushed her in. I should say that Cersei is the one who implied that she pushed her friend into the well and left her there to drown, so it's pretty canon. In light of all this, I have no reason to question the accuracy of anything Maggie predicted. I mean, do we really think that George is going to write this woman to be 100% accurate about everything except this one detail? I don't think so. There are some fans who do, though. Proponents of R plus C equals G like to counter Maggie's predictions about Cersei's children by saying Maggie only foretold of the children Cersei would think of as her own, not the actual number she'd have. Cersei hated Robert, ergo, Cersei would not view a child he impregnated her with as hers. Ergo, Gendry could still be Cersei's, only Maggie withheld that from her. What? That makes no sense. Cersei is nobody to Maggie, so why would Maggie take Cersei's feelings into account? Hell, we know Maggie didn't take Cersei's feelings into account because prior to foretelling any event, Maggie tells Cersei, 3 questions you get. You won't like the answers. Meaning, Maggie was going to tell Cersei the truth, not what Cersei wanted to hear. I think that taking this perspective is a pretty broad interpretation of Maggie's prophecies, and people do it because they want R plus C equals G to be true, not because logical evidence supports the idea. I suppose it comes down to this. Do you believe a 100% accurate fortune teller who's unafraid to tell inconvenient truths to anyone, or do you believe Cersei, who lies as frequently as people change their underwear? The former gets my vote. A third flaw, and this might be nitpicky, but it's worth noting regardless, is the age of this child Cersei told Kat about. Based off what Cersei said, this kid wasn't more than a few weeks old, possibly even a few days, when it died. Assuming that was Gendry, it would mean the baby swap happened at a very young age, almost instantly upon its birth. That's too young to have the memories Gendry has. I mean, I don't think anyone watching this can remember how their mother wore her hair when they were less than a month old. The memories Gendry has are more appropriate for a kid who's in the 6 to 10 years old range. In my assessment, I think what we saw in the show was Cersei lying to Catelyn, expressing false sympathy for the sake of appearances. Also, if Kat thinks Cersei lost a child, it might throw Kat off Cersei's trail with regards to the Bran situation, because surely a woman who's lost a child wouldn't inflict that pain on another mother. I believe David and Dan were aware of the fan theory R plus C equals G and took some creative license to stoke the flames and give us pause. That being said, I don't personally think D&D will follow through with it. I think they're just trolling us. The clear paternity reveal in Season 8 will be R plus L equals J. I'm not sure the show needs another big reveal of that ilk. Most likely, Gendry's mother really was just a blonde who liked to sing and work in a tavern. And here is where I leave you. I hope you enjoyed my take on R plus C equals G. I like the idea of this theory, however, I don't think it's true in the end. If I've left anything out or misinterpreted clues, please let me know, because again, I do really like this theory, I'm just unconvinced at this time. However, I am very happy to be wrong, so if you think I am, let's get talking, let me know. Also, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and join my Khalasar. I'm Ashley of Noth. Thank you for watching.